And this guy came in who I wound up finding out was a huge enforcer for John Gotti. In fact, he was involved in the Castellano hit.
Oh.
I didn't know him. He was just big and gruff, always angry, it seemed. He comes, he used to call me Hey You. Every time I told him my name, he didn't care. I was Hey You. Hey You, give me a drink. Give him a drink. Give him a drink. And he goes, give each a drink. I said, give each a drink? Yeah, what are you, stupid? I just said, give each a drink. I gave the whole bar a drink. 30 guys. They all go, hey, Joe, chin down, good luck, right? And he goes, hey, you, come here. He goes, what'd you do? I said, I give each of them a drink like he told me to. He goes, Joe Chadicchio. That's who you're supposed to give the drink to. Not each and every one of them, you fucking idiot. You know, and I'm like, so this is what I dealt with.
Dope is what flows in his fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in his fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Dope Interviews, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. And in the virtual building today, I have an experienced actor with literally over 100 TV and film appearances. You've seen him in literally everything. Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street, Carlito's Way, Donnie Brasco, Bronx Tale, Do the Right Thing, Sopranos. And I can't even name them all right now. But here to discuss his role in another film as part of the Miami Film Festival, the film called Silent Partners, which I had the opportunity to screen and watch his role in. It is the great Garry Pastore. Garry, thank you so much for being here with me today, and welcome to Dope Interviews.
Warren, what's happening, my man?
Love, brother. Love.
One love, man. One love.
You see it. And I see what you have in the background there as well too. So we was talking off air, about the Jamaican love and kinship that you have. So I already know this is going to be another dope interview for sure. So Garry, talk a little bit about Silent Partners here. So I'm of a certain age, and je ne sais quoi, as they say, and I've seen a lot of kind of, for lack of a better phrase, gangster or mafia movies, right?
Right.
And something that kind of stands out to me is that in a lot of these movies, the hitman or the business owner or somebody who's a part of the business always wants something else, right? Like they always kind of like, hey, they're like, I'm part of the cog. I wish I could do a little bit more. And this movie has a little bit of that, as again, the main star of it, like I said, he's like kind of running like a little bit of a side hustle, if you will, too. How do you think Silent Partners kind of differentiates itself, from some of those similar themes that we see in a lot of, kind of mafia movies?
Well, I think it's just the underworld in general. Even if you go back to Scarface, with Tony Montana, there was never enough for him. He had to keep acquiring, which made that such a fantastic film. And since we're on the subject, this movie takes place during that time period.
It does, yeah.
Right after the Mario boat lift, you had the Mafia starting to sink its tentacles into southern Florida. You had the Cuban drug lords, and you had the cartels. So it was a really crazy mix of all of these gangsters being in the same hot place, Miami. And, of course, a lot of bad shit's going to go down. This was based loosely on a character named Fat Dave Accavetti, who was a Gambino. I guess he was a boss at that time, yeah. And him trying to get control of a piece of the action down in Florida. Be it drugs, even though the Mafia had taboo against drugs. I'd be honest with you, everything that I've ever come across Mafia lore-wise, didn't care what it was as long as it brought in money.
Yeah, bring in the bread.
The bread. And this was a real scam about the insurance. They would sign insurance policies to guys that borrowed a lot of money. And if you didn't make your loans, you got killed and then collected anyway.
So, I honestly, Garry, I thought it was genius. I did. I mean, not killing, obviously, but the concept in terms of like you're gonna live in this world.
It was insanely brilliant.
Yeah.
Little, medieval, but it was brilliant nonetheless. Zero, I watched this film evolve from a pilot. We shot a pilot first. And that was like 7 years ago. We were going to turn this into a series, which I would have loved.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'd always said Mob in the Tropics could be a lot of fun. You know, and I played every mobster, even twice. I played Anastasia 2 times in 2 different films. So I certainly played enough of real mob characters that, and here's another almost biographical representation of this guy, Dave, and his son was on set, and he said I did a good job, you know, which added credence to it. I always love to hear that. You know, I played Matty the horse on this show, The Deuce, which was an HBO series,
Yeah.
and I had met Matty twice. And I didn't really, it's hard to really study these characters. You only get your own interpretation. But his family members who were still alive came over and said I did a great job. So, you know, I always love those little kudos. They're great. And the one good thing about Ciro and Yokes, who is the director, and Jay Bishop, the writer, is they let me have at it. You know, they were like, do what you do, bro.
Right.
You know, and I added some stuff, and it just came great. You know, I love to improvise, and they let me improvise. So the improvisation was awesome, especially with characters. You know,
it comes across. You know, it comes across in the film, and I think as you bring up, you know, jokes, if you will, George, it's something that I've always wondered. Like, you know, when you are on set, right? Like, so you've been on many sets in your time, and people were a little bit more controlling, and some people who are like you said, do what you do. So you're saying on this, did you get that vibe for everybody, or is that because of the cachet that you brought to the role and just kind of the experience that you have in this business in general?
Well, what helped is I did bring I recommended a few colleagues down for the job, and Ciro and the gang liked them, so they cast them. That helped, because here I am working with guys that I know and love, and we work well off each other. So, you know, the great thing about an independent film, especially one that is low budget, is you can't have egos involved. You got to leave egos at the door. This is really truly about the work and the work ethic. You know, there was a person that was on set. I was trying to tell that the other day at the festival. I guess it didn't come out right. That thought, you know, he should have had his trailer there and his grandeur meals and whatnot. And independent films are just, they're not about that. You're there for the work. You're there because you like the project.
The art.
And it's true filmmaking, which is what I actually love. That's why I'm here. I never did this for money.
Word.
And if you do it for money, you need your head examined, because there will be times you will make no money. And then you will have a year where you'll make great money. But you try and divide that out over a 40-year span, you realize that, hey, it's not one of those businesses that's economically sound for anybody. You know, I mean, you see how much rents cost. And that's even for a single person. You know, if you really want to be a struggling actor, have at it. But I didn't.
Garry, Garry, let me ask you this, like, not to interrupt, but I think as you bring it up, it'd be remiss of me not to take advantage of everything you're just saying there, right? So you have this breadth of multiple shows, resumes, like it's laundry list long. It's like, it's ridiculous, right? So I think somebody from the outside looking in and be like, oh, Garry's well off. You know, hey, and I'm not asking a question about your pockets per se, but more in the aspect of like, well, being busy doesn't necessarily mean that you're being paid in the exact same way that I guess the eye test would say that it is. That's what you're saying?
Yes. Well, the secret behind all of this is I've had an occupation to always coincide with my acting career. In the beginning, it was bartending, managing restaurants. You know, I'd have the days open for auditions and the nights I'd work. I turned that into whatever I had to turn it into. Most of the time I had 2 side hustles beside acting. I became a crew member and, you know, a prop, and I was involved in the construction of sets. I pretty much worked in every faction of the film business. And what was great about it was I was on set every day. So every day I was in acting class or film class. And I got to learn it all. And I made a good living. and I did something constructive. Believe me, there were many days I was on a set watching an actor act and saying, God, he looks like me. Why can't that be me up there doing this?
Wow.
So it had a dual-edged sword, you know. There was many times I was sitting, you know, in the back of the stage, kind of sad, watching somebody doing what I should be doing. But I also realized that at least my rent's getting paid, my mortgage is getting paid. I did what I had to do, and I have a family, I have children, you know.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that they always had a warm meal and a roof over our heads. So
Yes, sir. Yeah. Garry, I appreciate you sharing that, you know, with us for sure. And I want to touch back on something you were kind of getting into a little bit. You know, you are in it because of the project itself. Like you believe in the project and the art of it, right? So
yeah.
but you've been in a lot of movies that have similar themes and tones or whatever. So how do you really bring that like uniqueness that you're not necessarily, because I think there's value in borrowing some stuff from other roles, but each role needs to be unique into itself. How did you bring Fat Dave in essence to a unique space for Silent Partners?
Well, I, truth be told, I grew up serving a lot of these characters that I portray. I worked in a nightclub in Brooklyn, and it was affluented by many Mafia members. In fact, John Gotti came in a lot with his crew. I mean, I have some of the funniest mob stories you would ever want to hear, just from bartending and serving them over the years.
Wow.
You know, they're all characters. They all had their own little savoir-faire about them and their own little niche of who they were. And I studied them, you know, kind of on the sly. And I guess that helped, beside the fact that I don't think that you should just stereotype. A lot of these guys were businessmen too. You know, people think that they talk like this all day long, forget about it. Yeah, maybe the lower echelon. But the mob members and the bosses that I have met over the years were very well-to-do. They dressed nice. They rode in fancy cars. They ate in great restaurants, and I've been out to dinner with them.
Wow.
You know, I respected them, and they in turn respected me.
So hold on, I'm only interrupting because like, so are you like Colosimo? You know what I mean? A Bronx Tale? You know what I mean? Like you like kind of like working
similar situation, yeah. Similar.
Wow.
I worked around them, never really directly involved. My father was somehow involved in it. I think he was a bookmaker back in the day. I know he worked with Lucky Luciano and those guys. I mean,
Wow.
his stories go way, way back. But I never aspired to be like him. I always wanted to be a performer, so that I did, you know. But it's kind of cool having the I guess the workshop that I had as a youth, you know, watching these characters.
Yeah.
And I met every one of them. I mean, Sammy, I met them all. There's not one famous monster I don't think I haven't met that have been around in my lifetime anyway. You know.
So it was easy to kind of call from those real life experiences and, you know, bring that into the catalog of work that the body of work that you have, you know, over the last, 4 decades. Like that's, truly, truly amazing to kind of recall and be able to do all of that, sir. Like I salute you on that for sure.
Well, I always idolized Michael Corleone in The Godfather because he didn't want to be in the mob. He got forced into it. He was the one that really wanted to make the difference and not join forces with the family, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that. That was intriguing to me, how here's a guy who's really trying to stay out of that life and got pulled into it. And that's what made Al Pacino's performance so amazing, is that you saw it, that he didn't want that life and he got brought into the life. And I like that. Believe me, if every role was like that for the mobsters that I portray, it would be wonderful, because there's layers of them.
For sure.
You know, it's not just all about killing and shooting and all of that nonsense. Look at Tony Soprano. Life was totally complicated, you know, and that was great writing between David Chase creating that character, and Terry Winter as one of the writers, putting on the layers of it, and then of course the wonderful performance by Gandolfini. He created Tony Soprano. I'm sure that what was first envisioned as Tony Soprano only got better by James Gandolfini. You follow me?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
It was his interpretation, and his interpretation is what turned him into this iconic, forever, symbol of, you say mob now, and it's Sopranos. I mean, and it's who's the best, Tony Soprano or James Gandolfini. So he turned that into that amazing performance. And I did the same, I guess, with Silent Partners. My own interpretation. They fed me the storyline. They gave me the dialogue, and I went with it. I took it and I ran with it.
Well, so, congratulations, again on that. And, we're going to continue to dive a little bit deeper into the Silent Partners situation and, conversations about mob movies here on the other side of this break. We're chatting with the great Garry Pastore, famous actor, and talking about his role here in Silent Partners at the Miami Film Festival debut. We'll be right back here on Dope Interviews. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed when you use the promo code CLNS. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts and is available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and my home state of Florida. Due to the enormous selection of players and stat types available, you can mix and match your playing strategies based on your personal preferences. I'm a Celtics guy, so I might take Tatum for more than 27 points, and maybe I'll rock with Porzingis for more than 2 blocks. And for those who love a quick win, Prize Picks is the way to go. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Remember, with Prize Picks, it's as simple as picking more or picking less. Again, that's promo code CLNS to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We're back here in Dope Interviews with my guy, Garry Pastore. Garry, as before the break, we were talking a little bit about kind of almost like a little bit of the history of, kind of mafia movies and TV and the reasons why some of these films and these characters are so great. And one of the things you touched on before the break too was like your real life experiences and being in these spaces, and there are characters, they're businessmen. And one of the things I've always loved about mafia movies was that there was humor in them. There's this very serious nature to what they're doing, but there is legitimate, slap your knee humor to everything that's in it. Can you talk to me a little bit about that aspect? And because even in Silent Partners, that's portrayed. You portray that so well, with the guy who's playing your son, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, yo, it's spot on from what you're used to. But I've always wondered how that was so prevalent, I think, within those spaces.
Oh, they are characters, and they are fun. I'm telling you, I've had, I sat with some of them and I actually almost choked on whatever I was eating, or because they just come out with this outlandish stuff off the cuff. I don't know if you remember in Silent Partners, Rafi Castillo comes in. Rafi Castillo is his name. He comes into my restaurant and guns drawn, and he goes, "I'm Pharaoh." I said, "Well, Pharaoh, you just committed suicide. Why don't you go climb back up your pyramid and get the fuck out of here?" Am I allowed to say that? So that was improvised. That was not scripted. I did what, it's amazing, man. You close your eyes and you just transform into this world of mobster, because that's something that they would absolutely say,
But how do you keep it like on set? Like something like that comes off and it's legitimately funny. So, I mean, how many takes are you doing? Because especially if it's improvised, he's not expecting you to say that. I might just start die laughing, and that's going to have to take us a couple of takes.
Well, that's exactly what happened. I think after they said it, everybody started giggling. And I was like, let's get serious now. I got to do that again. It's fine if somebody giggles,
Yeah.
And even another funny part was when my son goes in the bathroom with the waitress during that scene, Joey D'Onofrio, when he comes out and he looks at me, and I just give him that hairy eyeball and I go, get out of my sight, you know, because why are you in the bathroom when guys are drawing guns down on us? Where were you? So, you know, that's called movie magic.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about being an actor and working on sets day after day is this stuff just happens all the time on set when things are just in the right gel, in the right mix, you know, when things just really start to come together. But you also need to have producers and directors and writers that will give you that freedom.
Space.
A lot of, like on The Sopranos, you couldn't change a word. Couldn't change a word, bro.
Bang.
I wanted to change one word. They wouldn't let me. Not one. I did it. Same on The Blacklist. One word I just wanted to get rid of. They raised hell. One word. So I'll be honest with you. I prefer to work on an independent because I got more freedom. I don't need to be dictated to if I want to. You know, a lot of times they give me dialogue and I go, a wise guy wouldn't say that. That's bullshit. You know, listen, you're from the boroughs, right? You know how people talk up in the Bronx. You know how people talk in Bed-Stuy. You know how people talk everywhere. And then you're going to put those words in somebody that's from the hood of Bed-Stuy or whatever. And you're going to go, Bo, well, they don't talk like that.
Not at all.
The hell is that nonsense? And it kind of infuriates you because you know that ain't the lingo.
And you're just trying to help, right?
I'm trying to help the project along.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like playing at this point because of my age and the fact that I've just played mob bosses. I'm going to stay in that realm. You know, I'm not going to take a role where it's going to be like, you know, Mario in the back of the deli stirring the tomato sauce. I'm not doing that. You know, I want there to be some depth to the character.
Wow.
And I think that's why I get cast a lot. And people make offers to me because they see what I can do, what I'm capable of as an actor. You know, I kind of close my eyes, I get on set, and I let that force take over. You know, I'll give you one funny story. I was bartending in a bar. There was about 25 or 30 mob members, you know, between associates up to captains, whatever. It was a nightclub and it was in Brooklyn. It was very famous. It was around for a long time. And this guy came in who I wound up finding out was a huge, huge enforcer for John Gotti. In fact, he was involved in the Castellano hit.
Wow.
I didn't know him. He was just big and gruff, always angry, it seemed. He used to call me Hey You. Every time I told him my name, he didn't care. I was Hey You. Hey You, give me a drink. Give him a drink. Give him a drink. And he goes, give each a drink. I said, give each a drink? Yeah, what are you, stupid? I just said, give each a drink. I gave the whole bar a drink. 30 guys. They all go, hey, Joe, chin down, good luck, right? And he goes, hey, you, come here. He goes, what'd you do? I said, I give each of them a drink like you told me to. He goes, Joe Chadikio. That's who you're supposed to give the drink to. Not each and every one of them, you fucking idiot. You know, and I'm like, ugh. So this is what I dealt with.
All day.
Insanity.
Oh, it is. It is.
Insanity. I'm saying to myself, I could get killed because I gave each of them a drink. I didn't know.
But that's a story I'd see in a movie. Like it, like it really is.
I still want to put that in a movie because it's one of my favorite stories. I tell it all the time. Really happened. Real guy. You can look him up. He's all over the internet. I'll tell you off air. Hysterical. Hysterical. In fact, I think he threw a drink at me that night.
You just blacked it out. Don't worry. Just blacked it out. Yeah, I think again. I thank you for that, man. Again, I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and you know, really excited to be talking about your experience in acting, and again, obviously, specifically what you've been able to do in Silent Partners. Before we kind of close out, Garry, your thoughts on movies, especially when they're independent, right? So they can get critical acclaim, and then there's kind of like the people's vote, so to speak. So, what are you looking for, if anything, from the critical side, and then from the people, if you will, who see it as well too?
Well, listen, it's going to come out I guess on mainstream, vid and pay-per-view and all of that stuff.
Yeah, in May, I believe.
May
Yep.
13th, I believe. And
Yes.
then, then the bigger stations will pick it up and I'll probably find a home somewhere in that. I want people to watch it. I'm involved in my own stuff right now. I wrote a independent film about what's happening at the border. It's very timely.
Hmm.
It's about a child who gets brought into the United States against his will to be sold into the sex trade. And I am the cat. I wrote the role for myself as a lead, and I kind of save him. We come into each other's life, but not before a lot of bad shit goes down. It's a great, great story. It's a term of endearment type of a story. It's one of those heartfelt things that I felt it's very topical now because, again, yeah, I can do Mafia in my sleep, but I really want to make films about life's topics and important subject matter. So that's where I plan to spend my later years. I don't want to go down as a mob actor. I want to go down as everybody's actor.
I hear that.
That I have some other attributes beside. I'll say this. Even though I'm not considered a person of color, I am. Italians have always been looked at like we're just mobsters. And I find it hurtful since my grandfather came from Italy and he was a shoemaker and a tailor, and I had uncles that came and they were Masons. They worked very hard to get into society and they were always treated like crap. They were called horrible names like WAP and Guinea. And so having been on the other end of that stick, I know what it's like to have prejudice. I know what it's like for people to be inhumane. And it gave me a certain insight to how others feel as well. I'm very happy now that people of color are getting more work and I'm starting to see more films with them and quality films. Not, listen, if you only look at me because I have a vowel on the end of my name that I'm a mobster, then shame on you, man.
Mm.
And you should not base how you're cast by the color of your skin. Shouldn't. It should be what it is that you bring to the table. That's how you should be cast. And, like I said, I'm seeing a change. Unfortunately for Italians, it's still the same. And I very rare get cast as a doctor. And it's not my fault. That's the closed-mindedness of the casting directors and the producers that just say, oh, well, he's got a vowel on his name. He can only play a mobster, which is not true.
Well, that's why you're writing your own stuff, right? And
I
then
got to
sometimes you
create
have
my
to
own
move your own way.
destiny. Advice I give to every young actor out there is pursue your dreams, but don't let it put you in a situation that you're going to regret, where you never got married because you could never settle down because you never had enough money to settle down, or you couldn't have children because, you've been dealing with a struggling career. You always got to have a backup plan. Have a backup plan. And if it doesn't work out, you gave it your best shot. And that's what I would tell anybody who's aspiring. There's a lot of competition out there, and it's getting tighter and tighter, because you're not seeing the type of films that we grew up going to the movie theater to see. It's all Marvel and studio films, or these biopics, these musical biopics, which do well. But, to get into that mainstream, you think you're going to be a movie star kind of, you better get that thought out of your mind right away because you're in the wrong business,
Garry, before we close out, I want to kind of pick your brain one last time on kind of the endpoint that you had there. So if you're making your own things here now, right? You're in this Silent Partners film, which is obviously an independent film, at the Miami Film Festival. What advice would you give to new filmmakers, right? Independent filmmakers, or people like yourself who are kind of skilled in kind of doing it all. You can act, you can produce, you can write. What advice would you give them as the industry might be kind of, I won't say stuck in a rut, but there's a certain type of films, as you just kind of alluded and outlined, that are kind of being made and remade over and over again. What would you tell independent filmmakers, in essence, for them to be successful, whatever that may look like for them?
All right. First of all, you should get a job on a set, as a PA. Say you're a young filmmaker. Say you're like 19, 20 years old. You want to make movies. Go get a job as a PA. Go work on a real set. Watch the pros work. Like Steven Spielberg shooting a movie out here in New Jersey. Go try and get a job on that. Try and get close to the camera as you can. Watch what Spielberg does. Watch what the producers do. Watch what the filmmakers do. Watch what the crew does. Start to learn everybody's, object of what they do on the team. Watch the nuts and bolts of it. And then start off small, making your first film. Borrow money from whoever you got to get it from. Get it from mom, dad, uncles, aunts. I don't care who. But set your sight small. Even if you got to make it on your iPhone. This iPhone, what is it, 16? Great camera on it.
Yeah.
Get that. Get a little, apparatus like a gimbal, whatever, so it's not so shaky. They sell all kinds of stuff now. Get a couple of friends together, write a little screenplay, and make a short, and then bring it into the festivals and keep going from there. Funny, I was on a phone call the other day. A guy got on and he goes, "Yeah, I got a $30 million project, and I'm going to get this actor and that actor." And I go, "Oh boy, bro, you're dreaming, man." I said, "The chance of you getting this made is slim to none." Okay. And then where's it going? You think you're going to get in a movie theater? I said, it's not what people are going to the movie theater to see. They have studios behind them, big studios. And even then, it doesn't mean anything. Robert De Niro just did a $45 million film with Barry Levinson, who's a veteran director. And the film sunk like a stone. I think it only made $1.5 million at the box office.
Wow. So
that took a beating. And what sucks about that is it also takes away credence of any future kind of projects.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Look at, we were talking about Bob Marley before. Look at the success of that film. Probably wouldn't be my first choice for Bob, but he didn't do a bad job. I didn't think he did a bad job. It did kind of tell a story of his mission and who he was. And the film wound up being amazingly successful. But I knew it would be, because who doesn't like Bob Marley?
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're going to do something that people are going to want to see. And don't set your sights so high that you're going in this, you're going to win an Academy Award one day. I don't know. I would never say that. I would never say I'm going to conquer Hollywood. I would never say I'm going to win an Academy Award. Be humble. Be humble, be quiet, let success make all the noise.
I love that. I think that is an amazing place to kind of wrap our interview for today. But this is, Garry, you're somebody who I would love to be able to chat with down the line, especially as future projects in essence kind of come out. I'm glad Silent Partners brought us together here, thanks to the Miami Film Festival. But you truly are an amazing individual with an amazing stories and more stories to kind of come for sure. He is the great Garry Pastore. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at Garry_Pastore. You can follow me at Shot Sports NBA if you like my basketball content, or dope_interviews as well. But just turn on your TV, find something on streaming. You're going to see Garry, even if you're not following him, you're going to see him somewhere. He's got a couple projects out here brewing already as it is. You know what it is. It's been another dope interviews, man, with my guy, Garry. It's been a great time meeting, brother. We'll talk again soon.
Go look. Great.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation, understand me?